unanimous consent to submit for the record a letter from the D.C. Council opposing this bill.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, I strongly oppose this undemocratic and paternalistic bill. This is the seventh bill this Congress, House Republicans have marked up or brought directly to the floor to repeal laws enacted by the duly elected District of Columbia government. Congress has has constitutional authority to legislate on local D.C. matters, but it does not have a constitutional duty to do so. Instead, legislating on local D.C. matters is a choice. House Republicans have repeatedly demonstrated that they believe D.C. residents, the majority of whom are black and brown, are unworthy or incapable of governing themselves. The D.C. Council has 13 members. The members are elected by D.C. residents. If D.C. residents do not like how the members vote, they can vote them out of office. That is called democracy. Congress has 535 full voting members. The members are elected by residents of the states. None are elected by D.C. residents. If D.C. residents do not like how members vote on local D.C. matters, they cannot vote them out of office. This is the antithesis of democracy. The legislative history and merits of the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022 should be irrelevant, since there is never justification for Congress repealing legislation enacted by D.C. Nevertheless, I would like to set the record straight. The D.C. Council unanimously passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022. While the legislation was enacted without the D.C. mayor's signature, the mayor urged Congress to oppose the disapproval resolution on the legislation. The D.C. Police Department supported removing discipline from collective bargaining, eliminating the 90-day statute of limitations for discipline, and allowing the police chief to increase proposed disciplinary penalties to make it easier to fire officers for serious misconduct. Moreover, disciplinary hearings have long been open to the public. Now the public finally can learn when and where they are occurring. The Revolutionary War was forged to give consent to the governed and to end taxation without representation. Yet D.C. residents cannot consent to any action taken by Congress, whether on national or local matters, and pay full federal income taxes. Indeed, D.C. pays more federal taxes per capita than any state, and more federal taxes in total than 19 states. If Republicans cared about our democratic principles or D.C. residents, they would bring my D.C. statehood bill, which will give D.C. residents voting representation in Congress and full self-government to the floor. Congress has the constitutional authority to admit the state of Washington, D.C. It simply lacks the will. I'm deeply concerned about the violent crime spike in D.C., and the D.C. Council is voting on legislation today that it believes will reduce crime. I suggest that Congress knows or cares, more about public policy in D.C. than D.C. is patronizing. I urge members to vote no on this bill.
Will the gentlelady yield?